Hello everyone, how you doing? And welcome back to Skye and Evan in the morning. And today we're talking about Gemini Man by Ang Lee, starring Will Smith and Will Smith. Um,
Yep, a
yeah,
dual role that made a lot of people happy, and everyone goes back to this one. I was thinking of Babylon because it's just like Babylon was another like it's got like a 20 or like 50% or whatever. Like it just got low ratings at first, and I feel like it's been ignored. And this is kind of the same. Everyone was just like, yeah, it's bad,
yeah.
and it bombed. So just people don't really talk about Jeff. And Will Smith also committed assault and battery, so that's another variable in this movie's reputation.
Oh yeah, there is that. Um, yeah. Okay. So big question, very important question, Evan. Do you think this is a good movie?
The thing is, before I finished it, I bought it on Blu-ray, and it's like that tells me something. I was drawn into it. My problem is that it is so everything about this movie you've seen it before and
Yes.
better.
Yes.
It's there's no surprises. A lot of the action feels like video game levels almost, not
Right.
necessarily in a bad
That is
way.
also a question I need to ask. Did you watch on a high refresh rate monitor? And if so, did you watch with the high frame rate?
No, well, I got the Blu-ray, so I'm imagining. I don't know if it's on the Blu-ray. I don't know if there, but I have a high refresh rate monitor. I'm pretty sure I was just watching the standard version because I know the standard frame rate version is like usually common. Like people were saying that like the super high 120 FPS like version is like not going to be readily available. Most people aren't going to watch that. So,
Yeah.
did you watch the
Yeah.
true version?
Yeah.
I,
See, the thing is, and I don't, I was thinking halfway through, right? Because I watched with the high frame rate. And there's so many moments where I'm like, everything feels so weightless. And there's so much CGI
yeah.
to things where usually you just shoot practically, usually, especially like
Well,
the fist fights. And then I was realizing, oh, they did CGI. Because with the 120 frames, it's hard to hide when you don't hit a person. Because,
yeah.
with 24 frames, it's easy to hide when you're not hitting someone. But with
Yeah, you just
120,
use a sound effect and
yeah,
like boosh, like you don't, and it's that whole thing you don't notice it in when you're watching the movie, like, and it
yeah,
doesn't really
because the
matter.
motion is too fast for the camera to get it. But if it's
Yeah,
120
motion blur
FPS,
is.
yeah. But with 120 FPS, that's not the case. So I was like constantly like, oh, that's why they're using CGI during like these fist fights because they have to make the hits actually land, and the actors can't just like hit nothing and they just hit the air
It
because they
it
won't be able to hide it.
it probably looked worse on my end, honestly, because it just there is motion blur in the fights, and it doesn't look. And obviously, they're using CGI to cover some of that up, but it just looks like CGI fighting CGI. Like I describe it as rubbery,
Yeah,
and
very rubbery.
especially Will Smith's double, like Junior, the character. It's what it reminded me a lot of is Tarkin in Rogue One, and like a lot of that Tarkin
Really?
kind of
Because I
started a lot
actually
of this.
thought young Will Smith, looked really good in the movie, except for the last scene. The last scene looks really bad.
Well,
But I thought his
the
face looked really good.
I thought, well, this is the thing. I think the same of Tarkin. There's a lot of people that think that Tarkin looks like irredeemably bad, that it was like so standout. Like, and I disagree. I think the model looks good. They also got an actor to give the performance, so you're not using an AI voice or anything like that. So it because of that, that's the added humanity to the role. The problem I have with Tarkin in Rogue One is that in every scene, he's opposite another character. He's usually having a dialogue with Krennic. And in those scenes, you just watch it and it's very clear which character is a human being and which isn't. And it's
Right.
mainly the lighting. It the skin and how skin reflects light in a scene. The the human brain is good at picking that up and just looking at Will Smith or Tarkin in those scenes, just like one person's there and one person isn't.
Mm.
Even though the CGI is pretty good, it's just like it's not good enough. We're not good enough to replicate it because Uncanny Valley is just I
Mm.
humans are so good at like detecting what is human and what isn't, and
Yeah,
this movie is
that is
definitely.
interesting. Outside of action scenes, I actually thought young Will Smith looked like I I could tell just because it was obviously like
Well,
old Will Smith giving the performance. So he had some of the old Will Smith mannerisms, like his face was a little bit like tighter or everything like than it was when he was younger. So it's like, yeah, it's older Will Smith. But in terms of like actually like looking at it, if I didn't know Will Smith at all, I would actually probably not be able to tell for most of it.
well, hilariously, another instance of that's a specific example. Usually, it's not distracting, but there's the scene where what's his name again? Varys, where he confronts Varys. That's like a scene where you don't have Will Smith working opposite of him to compare, but there's this shot where you see his hands, and you can tell they didn't really do, or at least I doubt they did anything to his hands, but they're clearly skin, and if you look at the face, you can compare the two with the eye, and it's like one of those like, huh. But the other thing I noticed about Will Smith in
Oh
this
yeah, I
movie
agree
is
with
that
that.
he's clearly trying to sound younger. He's trying to bring his voice back to the inflections he had, like just date himself a little bit, but it sounds that way, you know? It sounds like old Will Smith is trying to act like young
Yeah.
Will Smith, and it's the entire character of Junior, there's this uncanniness and rubberiness to him that is it's hard to get invested and feel like he's an actual character because it's just there's this fakeness. But it's like, well, he's a clone, right? Isn't he fake? It's like, like it's just hard to get attached though. Like, this is a frustrating movie. So I I wanted to be on its side, but it's it's frustrating.
Right. Well, you didn't answer my question, but that's great because I actually don't have an answer
What
to my question. The question being,
what
is
was it?
this a
What was
good movie? I really
you
don't
you you
know.
s- you were saying like the action video gaming, and yeah, is this? Well, I was
I don't
asking that
know. I don't
myself.
know. I
Like,
don't know how if this is a good movie. Like, because like when I
it's
was rating
well,
it on Letterboxd, I give it a 5, right? But it's like I don't think this is a movie I can like just call good or bad. I don't think either qualifier does justice to this film because it's
yeah,
not like it does a lot of things right, and it is, like a fairly standard action film, and there are some really cool things in it. And I think
yeah,
like most of the CGI is actually really good, like with young Will Smith, and like there are many things that I like. At the same time, the story is extremely bare bones. Like there's nothing to the story. The story is like just random like generic action
well,
movie.
yeah. I mean, like, just like let's start them off like an opening like sniper scene. There's a bunch of those like to get like action started. Then you have the like meeting up with the old boss, the mistake that like has been made, and it's like I'm slipping. I'm not as good as I used to. I need to retire. Then the old chum who gives them a clue and is killed for what he knows later. And then the assassins are sent, and they're sent after the girl as well, and the girl's brought in. And then the confrontation, you have the stripping for the wire, you have the assassins trained at birth. That's something that Slow Horses actually did. Everything in this movie, everything is just something that you've seen before. And I guess the draw is supposed to be the characters in this movie, right? But it's like they're not that interesting. They're okay, but this movie is just not doing anything to make itself stand out from the crowd with the storytelling. And the biggest problem I had with this movie was Will Smith, because you really have to be invested in the character and the
Yeah.
performance. You gotta, if Will Smith
Yeah.
doesn't
I mean,
work,
yeah,
the movie
the
doesn't
thing
work.
is, right? This feels like movie 7 in a franchise. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, kind of.
it feels like a movie dissecting a character. Like that's why they would introduce the whole clone subplot and then like ongoing franchise to be like analyzing the character, getting the young versus the old. Like imagine
Well,
this was Mission Impossible and it was old Ethan Hunt versus young Ethan Hunt. That sounds interesting, right? Like him going against his younger self and actually analyzing who he is and what some things that are intrinsic to him, others that were instilled by the way he was brought up. Like that makes sense. When it's a one-off movie, I don't get why people would be invested in this movie, Which is why like I think everything it does with Will Smith's character, what's it called, Henry, is like
I don't really.
fine-ish. Like there isn't anything particularly wrong, and I think it makes enough sense the way they characterize him. It's just not interesting for a character we don't know until this movie. Like it feels like we're jumping into a character that we've known for
Yeah.
years, but we don't.
Well, it's funny that this movie also reminded me. There's so many different things this movie reminded me of, but there's a Slough House spin-off novel called Nobody Walks that has like a different main character that isn't in any of the other books, and they have like this history. They're this like really hardened spy actually, but they've retired and then they come back into the fold. And again, it's one of those things you've seen it 1,000 times before. The retiree, like John Wick, is that,
Mm.
but I'm never a fan of those characters where it's just like they're just so cool and so badass that they couldn't be replaced. They needed to clone them, and it's like this is one of those movies where they just try to prop up the story by saying that Will Smith has had all these crazy things that he's done in the past and
Well, it's
knows
why
all these
again
people.
it
But
would be better if it was a franchise because we would have seen the shit he pulled off. you know?
yeah, something like that. And like I said, it's just well, the Winter Soldier is another example of something that's done kind of like the brainwashed, like super assassin. It's I, I at the same time though, it's directed by Ang Lee, and there are some shots, there's some moments in this movie. Like I love the musical score. The
Score's pretty
motorcycle
good.
chase is actually like pretty. That whole action scene is pretty solid stuff. Like,
It's
but
interesting. I was not that invested in it because everything looked so rubbery and weightless. And I don't
yeah.
know if it looked better in 24 FPS, but it just like
I
none of it looked real.
I don't know if the Blu-ray will have. I hope it does, but I really would be curious to have them side by side on like two separate monitors to see which one looks better. I wouldn't be surprised if some scenes look better in the higher frame rate and some look better in standard just
Yeah,
because of the motion. But that's what's so frustrating about this movie and any movie that plays with frame rate is it feels like an experiment
yeah.
on what looks good, and you watch it, you're like, this is just almost like a hey, can we do this? Can we make 120? I'm like, well, no one has really followed suit, so I guess
I mean,
no.
it's the same with the Hobbit movies that were 48 FPS as well.
Yeah, that again, rubbery people have said like the Battle of the Five Armies looks or whichever
Yeah. Well,
used it.
we
I think it was
we
last one.
talked about it, right? And I don't know if it's just the case. I don't know, actually. I don't think it's just that because I actually okay, my brain scattered thoughts. Let me streamline what I'm saying. The
Frame rate.
the yeah, no, but the look of the movie is what I mean. The I thought like until like the last like 40 minutes, everything in the movie and obviously the last scene, everything in the movie looked extremely fake. Like even when they were on location, it did not seem like it. I
Well,
don't know if you thought that as well.
yes, there's something really weird that I noticed was when characters are inside, like you said, they clearly filmed on location or like the dock, but when they're inside, when you look at the background looks green screen.
It
But you're
does.
like, I don't think it
I
is. And it's
think
just
I know why, and it's the same reason why everything in the Lion King 2019 looks bad, and it's the
yeah.
backlighting. Everything is lit from the back, so that's why it
Yeah.
looks to be popping out from the background, and that's why a lot of the and it's so weird. Everything looks like it's not there,
Well,
like there, and it makes the film look so cheap paired
let
with
me
the 120 FPS, which like we've already talked about, like higher frame rate makes movies look cheaper just by the fact that we associate it with like soap opera, like the soap opera effect, and
yeah,
the 24 FPS is the look for movies.
look at this shot that I just sent you. This is like
Yeah, that's
what you
what I
said
mean,
is
like the
spot on.
backlighting.
The 2019 Lion King, it's exactly what it looks like. And yeah,
Everything's lit
it's
from
so
the back.
frustrating because genuinely, this is actually a pretty good scene. I wasn't the biggest fan of this romance, and I honestly don't think it's even that prominent of a
I
part
don't even
of
know
the
if it's
movie.
meant to be a
But
romance because, like, they hint
yeah,
at it sometimes that he's into her, which, like,
l-
sure, it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I'm into her too, but like,
yeah, largely flirtation, leaning into Will Smithisms. But
yeah,
the I liked the scene and I liked the character, but this is a pretty good scene. But when I was watching this, I'm like, dude, look at this.
Yeah.
They're just outside, and this looks like a Marvel movie almost, where like
Yeah.
everything's green screen, but I don't think it is here. But it's just the way it was shot and the frame rate and everything. It's ugh,
Yeah. I think it's the whole thing. It's
so
how
frustrating.
Marvel movies look nowadays. It's just the whole thing of like backlighting. As far as I know, it's because it makes it easier to do CGI that way. So
Yeah, I'm not sure why that ended up being a part of this movie, but it does stand out. Not in every scene,
yeah,
but that's the problem
most
with the
scenes
movie.
that are
It's
outside or like just have like a background, like they all look like this. Is very funny. But then when they got into the catacombs, like that shit looked great. The
yeah,
fucking blue and yellow, especially from like the flare, and the blue from like the inside there, like when he was fighting himself, like the fucking when she drops the flare into the water, that looked awesome.
yeah. Well, again, I mentioned that a lot of these scenes feel very video game level-y, and
Mm,
I've always said that like video games, people are like, this feels like a video game. I'm like, I think the raid, it feels like a video game, but I think it's really solid. It's not necessarily a criticism, but that scene did feel very video game level E, but I loved the dialogue, loved the scene, and like you were saying, the yellow color, the flare, like the or orange more in the scene, then more
yeah,
yellow prominent, and then in the water, all of it was really good.
yeah.
And
Well, it's what impressed me because I was like, wait, this actually looks like, and the stuff at night look. I mean, I think the first scene at night when he escapes his own house, that looked bad because like it just looked way too dark. I was like, I genuinely
yeah,
could not see anything. But later on when they're fighting in the dark and there's the soldiers trying to kill him, I actually thought that looked really cool. And they did something with the gunpowder, like when they fire things, that like makes it look way more prominent. And I don't know if it looked like
yeah.
realistic, but I liked it. I liked like the big
Well,
explosions whenever they shoot.
well, at the end as well, I had never seen this ship, by the way, the third assassin with like the bulletproof armor, and then
Mm,
they use the dragon breath shotgun on him.
yeah,
That was crazy. I had never seen that before. But yeah, like the gun effects do stand out, and you can tell they're trying to enhance that.
yeah.
So I
Yeah, I don't know if it's just a thing of like because they have more frames, they make it look like pop out more because usually it's just like a couple frames and then it's gone, but because you have 120 frames, you have to
yeah,
fill the visual more. I don't know. It was interesting.
that actually probably is it. You only have 24 frames to work with, and a higher one, you need to make the effect last longer. So they might have
Yeah.
had to put more into, and that might have also contributed a lot of things. But the budget of this movie was like 150K, and it did not make its. But this was before COVID, so
Yeah.
but like that, like it didn't make much more than 150 million, and it ended up bombing. So, and obviously, it didn't get good reviews, really bad reviews. That's the other thing. Like, this movie just did not work for people
Yeah.
in the wider range. And when
Well,
like that's what you ask. I'm like,
I just don't think it's a movie appealing to anyone in particular or like just well
yeah,
anyway because it's just like action movie, like okay, like people
but
turn up for action movies but not just because, like you need something to grip them, especially like this was what, a year after
I guess,
Fallout. So
yeah, I guess it's Will Smith.
yeah, but
Like
I don't think Will Smith is enough of a big name to carry a movie like that. Like he's not Tom Cruise. I don't know.
Yeah, even he, like, well, spoilers, there's a movie that's had, multiple Tom Cruises, so even that's been done before. This is what I'm fucking talking about, is that just nothing in this movie stands out beyond the way it's shot. It feels like a gimmick movie, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
feels like it was
Well, it's
it's an
entirely sold on
experiment,
the
and
gimmick, and it does not have the an interesting story to back it up. Because I completely like
yeah.
am on board with movies that are
Well,
like, this is the gimmick, this is how we get you your seat. We get you to sit down and watch it. Okay, like I'm full on board with that. As long as you do something interesting with the story, you use the gimmick just to get people to watch it, but you actually make a good story out of it. But the movie has basically nothing going for it in terms of like story. It's very, very thin.
Well, another movie that this reminded me of in terms of just another you've seen it before is The Killer, because that's
Mm,
another ultra badass, but you have David Fincher directing it. I always loved my brother's description of the movie. He called it assassin slice of life. It's
yeah.
it, it is not extraordinary. The opening line is just saying, it can be boring as shit to be an assassin, and David Fincher, it's one of those things that I've laughed at too. That's I think the biggest problem with The Killer is that it's not inventive. You've seen everything in it before, but it's fucking David Fincher,
Yeah,
so
it's
he
just done
he
really
elevates
well.
it. Yeah, he elevates it enough, even though at the end of the day it's a fairly standard movie.
Mm.
This movie is also a fairly standard movie, but it doesn't have that Fincher edge. Ang Lee is good, but
And it is
other
interesting
elements of
to
this movie are
compare it to
just
The
so
Killer
plain.
because that was a Netflix original, and this feels like a streaming movie, doesn't it? It just feels like the
Yeah.
type of movie you watch on Netflix, especially like the way it's shot, the way everything looks fake. I was just like, yeah, Netflix vibes for sure.
But it sucks because some scenes, like you were saying with the catacombs, there were some moments that I think really, really worked, but so much of the rest of it is just standard and
Mm,
plain, and I don't know. I don't know how much more talking points we have, but I would recommend this movie. Like I said, I bought it on Blu-ray. It's interesting. It was a very interesting watch. But there's a reason why it didn't get good reviews and why it bombed at the
yeah.
box office. It's frustrating, and it could have done something more to make itself stand out from the crowd, but
Mm,
unfortunately it ends up feeling
yeah.
kind of plain.
It's yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would recommend it. That's a loaded question. Would I recommend it? I don't know. Um, it's interesting because like
What you open with?
yeah, I open asking if it's a good movie. Th- the the thing is, right? When I was watching, I was like, I don't know if we're gonna have enough to talk about just because the story was so thin. But we do have enough to talk about. It is an
Yeah.
interesting movie. Like we've talked
Yeah, it's
extensively, and there's like, but none of the thing about the movie that's interesting is the story. You know, it's everything around it. It's the gimmick, which I guess is the point. The movie's
yeah.
sold on the gimmick. I don't know if I would recommend it. Like, is there anything the movie's doing that you would get something out of other than like a couple cool action scenes, but like a lot of it is not even that great?
Yeah.
I don't know. I I
I mean,
I think
the s
I don't know.
the score is one thing that was just an element of the movie. Lauren Balfe did it, and he does the Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah, the
He
music
does
was
those
good.
Inception, like, brah, he does those really well. So, like, I loved that, but
Yeah.
like you were saying, the story, like, nothing about the story is extraordinary, and it kills the movie, it shoots it in the foot. If the script if it were just a little better, they, like, maybe trimmed it down a bit or reworked it, I could see something that pops a little bit, but even still, it's just really cliched and built around the gimmick again, like you said.
Yeah. I okay. I need to give an answer. I'm not gonna go away without an answer. I would I recommend okay. I would I I still don't know. Um
It's not a crime to say no. I mean, we rarely do anyway.
I think I would not recommend it. Yeah. Okay. But like I said, it's on the it's, concede either way. It's not an uninteresting film if you are into filmmaking, but I don't think you're gonna get anything out of it if you're just like watching it to get like a good action movie, because it's not really that either.
Yeah, the best way I could describe it is I feel like you and I could like keep going for like an hour more
Yeah.
about this movie, but it it's still you just round around to that. It's like it's just not that good at the end of the day. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's just kind of plain and I but it's so frustrating because it's Ang Lee and you can see greatness in there. There are great elements, but it's like, God damn it, the whole product just doesn't round out to anything great. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, weird movie. Like I recommend it if nothing else, just because of that. Because and like you were saying, if you're into film, I think you might be a little more interested or engaged in this one. I'm really curious to check out the high frame rate version. I want to, like I said, see them side by side, but by and large, not that great. So
Yeah. All right.
nice recommendation. I'm curious to.
Type of movie I
I'm
would
glad
never watch
again.
if not for the podcast.
Ne-
So
Never would have bothered. I just would have figured it would have been bad and thrown it away. I'm glad to have seen that now for sure. So
yeah. All right. Well, Evan, it's your turn to recommend something. We're
it is
in November. You're
indeed.
gonna do like a fucking Thanksgiving movie. I don't even know how many Thanksgiving movies exist, but America.
Yeah, I there's one that I might recommend because it's one that I always watch on Thanksgiving, but I have one that I've wanted to recommend for a little bit here. It's another secret agent movie,
Oh, okay.
which I have had an interesting theater history, and it's grown on me a little bit. I like it if nothing else for the vibes, and that is Christopher Nolan's Tenet.
Ooh, Tenet. I
I
love Tenet. Yes. Oh, hell yeah.
I think you and I have seen this movie several times,
Yes.
and it's like I said, it's grown on me. I have a lot to say about Tenet, but it's it's a movie I feel like we could watch it again, and I do think it's worth a fresh watch for
Oh,
anyone
I'm so
who's seen it.
excited to watch it. One of the worst things, because COVID killed like hundreds of
Oh,
thousands of people, but the worst thing COVID did was not allow me to watch Tenet on IMAX. Honestly, it was like
well, it's so
breaks
funny.
my heart.
I'll probably tell this story the next time too, but my brother and I, when we watched it in theaters, we literally had to remind them to turn it on. They'd forgotten to start the movie because like business was doing that badly. And I was like, oh my God, welcome to the future of filmmaking.
Jesus Christ.
No. But
Yeah.
I got that experience. I got the muffled because people have talked about the audio in this movie to days. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about, just like the frame rate of this movie. So
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've seen the movie a few times, and I don't know if they fixed it or if just I have a good home theater. Who knows? But I've never had a problem with the audio. I mean, it is a loud movie, but I
yeah,
like that it's loud. It adds to the experience. This is very much an experience movie. We'll get into it. I love Tenet, so that's a
yeah,
great recommendation.
yeah. We will, like I said, about like similar to the frame rate and all the CGI in this movie, we'll have like sound and a bunch of other things in Tenet. You and I like we know this movie, so
Yeah. All right. Fun. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll catch you next week for Tenet. And yeah. Bye bye.
bye bye.